Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Green. This is the last in the series of Algebra 2 lessons that I will be recording for you. We will be finishing up with conics today. I'm just going to go over a couple things. Now, don't forget your work and study island, and due dates are out there. We're getting close to the end of the semester. Don't let zeros be hanging around out there. You got to get them all taken care of, okay? Just as a little bit of review, the equation for a circle when we're graphing it is x minus h squared plus quantity y minus k squared is equal to r squared. And for an ellipse, you've got x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared is equal to 1. Or if it was a vertical one, you would have the a's and the b's swapped around the other way. Okay, if you're looking at a hyperbola, it's the same sort of thing, but you've got the minus sign here in between. Okay, it looks pretty much the same as the parabola one. I'm sorry, as the ellipse one, but instead of the plus sign, you've got the minus sign here. That's the only difference between them, and it's easy to tell them apart. Okay, parabolas, you only have one term squared. It's either the x term squared or the y term squared. It's not both of them. Okay, so that makes it easy. So let's put the conics into a graphing form, okay? Because conics are actually used in science and technology, so we're going to use them all over the place. This is the general equation for a conic. Ax squared plus bxy plus cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f is equal to 0. That's the general form for a conic, okay? And when you get this general form, what you can do is you can find the discriminant. Okay? The discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. That's what you can remember for that 4. You can take the value in front of the b, square it, minus 4 times ac. Okay? If that's greater than 0, you've got a hyperbola. If it's equal to 0, you've got a parabola. If it's less than 0, you've got an ellipse. If A and C are equal, then you've got a circle. It's a special situation for a circle. It's just an ellipse. I'm sorry, ellipse with A and C being equal. Okay? So here's what we can do. We can look at equations like this, and we have to identify what this one is. We're going to figure out the discriminant. We're going to say 4. Well, that's what A is equal to. A is equal to 4. B is equal to 0. C is equal to 4. Well, A and C are equal here, and b squared is 0 minus 4 times 4 times 4. That's 64. So I've got 0 minus 64. That's definitely less than 0, right? So let's go back here and look. Less than 0. It's either an ellipse or a circle, and A and C are equal. This is a circle. Okay? Do the same thing over here. We've got A is equal to 5. C is equal to 2, and B is equal to 0. How do I know B is equal to 0? I don't see an xy term in here. Okay? So what are we going to have? We're going to have 40, negative 40. And that's definitely less than 0. How did I get 40? I said 0, b squared, minus 4 times 5 times 2. 4 times 5 is 20, times 2 is 40. So that's negative 40. That's definitely less than 0. It's either an ellipse or a circle. Since A and C are not the same, it is an ellipse. Okay? So, if I have an equation like this, first of all, I can determine if what type of an equation it is, but they're telling me it's a circle, so I'm not even going to worry about it too much. I'm going to group my x's together, and I'm going to group my y's together, And I'm going to move this to the other side of the equal sign. So I'm going to have 4x squared plus 24x plus 4y squared minus 16y equals 12. I'm going to factor out the number in front of the x squared. So 4 times x squared plus 6x. 24 divided by 4 is 6, right? And then to complete the square, I divide the 6 by 2. It gives me a 3. 3 squared is 9. I'm going to add 9 onto this equation. It means I need to add 9 onto the other end of the equation, but it was multiplied by 4, so it's 9 times 4 that I'm adding on over here. Same thing here. Y squared minus 4y. I'd factored out the 4 to begin with. Negative 4 divided by 2 gives me a negative 2. Negative 2 squared is a 4, so I'm adding 4 times 4, adding 16 there. So I've got 12 plus 36 plus 16, that's 64. So the whole thing equals 64, right? I want to get rid of those 4's there, so I'm going to actually divide everything by 4. That's 64 over 4. That's 16, right? Which is equal to 16. So my center is at negative 3, 2. My radius is 4. I think it's easy enough to graph from that. Not a problem. Okay? Let's look at this one. What I'm doing with this one is they're telling me it's an ellipse, but if I didn't know, I could take the b squared minus 4ac. It's definitely less than 0, and my a and my c are not the same. So that means I know I've got an ellipse in the first place. So 5x squared minus 40x plus 2y squared minus 12y. Okay? I just put that plus sign in there. I subtracted the 78 from both sides. Okay? Completion of the square in here. I factored out the 5 first. 5x squared minus 8x plus 16. Negative 8 divided by 2 gives me negative 4. Negative 4 squared is a positive 16. So I'm going to take 16 times 5 and add that to that side because I added it over here. And now I'm going to do the same thing here. Negative 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to take 9 times 2, add it to this side since I added it on here. This becomes x minus 4 squared. This becomes y minus 3 squared. And I've still got these factors, 5 and 2. When I add negative 78 plus 80, that's 2. And then 18 more is 20. So I'm going to divide by 20. 5 divided by 20, 4. 2 divided by 20, 10. There's my equation. Tells me right there, bigger number, that means it's going to be a vertical ellipse. Center is going to be at 4, 3. Okay? 4, 3. I'm going to go up 10, and I'm going to go down 10, and then I'm going to go left and right 2. I'm sorry, left and right. That's not 10, it's square root of 10. Sorry. I'm going to go left and right 2, and it's going to go up and down the square root of 10. And that will be where I will put my ellipse. Okay? This one, same sort of thing. B squared minus 4ac. My no b in here at all. A is a 4, C is a 9, so they're not equal. But they're also not, that's 9 is a negative 9. So 4 times 9 gives me a 36. And times 4 would be 144. It's a negative 144. So I'm subtracting a negative 144. That means adding 144. That means it's greater than 0. That means it's a hyperbola. So I'm going to do the same sort of thing. Group my x's together minus. I'm going to group my y's together and go ahead and factor that minus out. It's got a minus 9, minus 18. That's a positive 9, a positive 18 with that minus sign factored out. That way it's getting in the form of the hyperbola already. Okay? I'm going to factor the 4 out, complete my square, and I'm going to get x minus 3 squared with the 4 out here in the front. And I've got a 9 here, and x plus 1 squared is equal to 36. When I divide by the 36, I'm going to get x minus 3 squared divided by 9 minus y plus 1 squared divided by 4 is equal to 1. That's the graphing form for a hyperbola, right? Easy enough to do. We've done that in the past. Cool. This one looked right at it and said, you know what? I only see one term in there that's squared. That means that c is equal to 0, right? Well, a is equal to 0 because a is the x squared term, and there is no x squared term. So that means b squared is equal to 0 and a squared is equal to 0. That means we've got a parabola. So all I had to do was I added the x to the other side and subtracted the 13. X minus 13 is equal to 3y squared minus 12y. Factored out 3, that's 3y squared minus 4y. Well, I know to complete that one, it's going to be a 4. So that means I need to add a 4 times 3, 12 to this other side. That's going to give me a x minus 1 is equal to 3 times x minus 2 quantity squared. And I will be able to graph my parabola with that information. Hopefully you guys see how I'm doing those quickly. This conic section, once again, I don't see an x squared on there anywhere. It means it's got to be a parabola. I mean, that's easy enough to look at it and figure that one out real quickly. This one, it says, what conic section does this represent? Well, seeing that they're different signs, the A and the C, and knowing that it's going to be greater than 0, that tells me this is going to be a hyperbola. Okay? So here I've got A as a 1 and C as a 0. That means this has to be a parabola. You see how I'm going through those? Those type of questions are really easy to do. Use that b squared minus 4ac every time. Remember that if it's equal to 0, it's a parabola. If it's greater than 0, hyperbola. If it's less than 0, it's either an ellipse or a circle. And you can tell if it's a circle if a and c are the same. That's the easy way of doing it. Okay? Once again, questions, come to tutoring. We don't have many left, but I do appreciate you letting me know that you're in Algebra 2 every time. It helps me keep track of where you are and also to answer your questions appropriately. I look forward to seeing you next time as we close out the semester. It'll be short-lived, but I'm glad we have spent the semester together.